people want some areas, open space. They'll also generate employment because you'll have dedicated people that are living right by where they could be employed. It's different because it doesn't require 50 acres. It does require, more than one or two, like some townships. Middle Smithfield permits it by right in their commercial corridor, as does Stroud. So we're trying to be thoughtful about it. Truthfully, I think the B1 and B2 parcels would have been kind of a natural fit for this, and a lot of them are, particularly in the medical corridor where they already have access to sewer and water and they're not occupying highway frontage. That is where I see most of this probably happening. Dr. Khan had a sketch plan that was before the township, I think 2022, something like that.
That was about 4 or 5 years ago.
And it has the grant to realign Franklin Hill Road to make that intersection safer.
Right.
This is a development that we think meets the standard of what we're kind of looking for. Nothing that's going to be extraneous and take up all the frontage, but where it provides a public good like that, we think it makes sense. But we don't want to be cherry picking, so that's why we added critical criteria like 5 gross acres. It forces you to go up instead of to have sprawl. I can let John detail some of his thoughts. He worked with me extensively on this. The other thing that we thought was critical was central sewer and water to make sure that we're not burdening online
But it
systems.
doesn't. It's my concern with the ordinance. It's vague. Okay, it's not that it's not good. It's just that it's a little vague. Is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? It doesn't mention it requires central sewer water, but does not require formal capacity demonstration. That's not in the ordinance.
No, all of that's this is just an option. So all of that is required in chapter 27 to begin with. It wouldn't be specific to this use.
Right, but it doesn't mention. There should be also a cross-reference that it has to be in accordance with Saldo.
And everything that's submitted has to be in accordance with Saldo. That's not unique to this use.
Right.
This follows every other ordinance. The difference too. One important one to note that I didn't put on my highlight sheet, but is in there. Chapter 27, section 506 deals with multifamily dwellings in our R2 district, which is theoretically how apartments would be approved currently outside of the incentivized option, but in the major mixed use option. And that is less dense than our R1 zone. So those are capped at 10 per building. And this also requires elevator service, a number of other things that are currently in the schedule of district regulations. The distinction there too is it is much better at providing the concentration that's going to be along that corridor rather than being so spread out like some of the other multifamily communities, because we don't want to build townhouses and things like that in this corridor. That's going to occupy too much space. We want to have essentially as little as possible that provides some reasonable opportunity for this option. And all of the rest of our current code of ordinances still applies except for those requirements with 27-506.
The township needs housing.
Yeah.
It needs housing and it needs different generations. We need to ensure that we meet that supply and demand.
For sure.
Okay, it's just that, when I read the ordinance, it's for me, it's a little vague because it doesn't. I know that you're saying that because of 27, but it doesn't, PennDOT has to approve final say in access to the state highways.
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't mention any of that.
It's required in the
No,
so.
let me, this is
Go ahead, John.
not a design ordinance. This ordinance is simply to permit a certain type of housing that we no longer permit. All our other ordinances are in place and will govern this. We've got the local zoning, got the local, which has criteria. This is part of the zoning, but there's other parts of the zoning that will impact this, including setback lines, landscaping, lighting, all of that. That all applies. And the Saldo, stormwater, we're there's no free ride here on any of that stuff. They have to comply with everything. They're gonna go, just like every other development, they're gonna go in front of the conservation district. If they're on the state highway, they're gonna have to get an HOP. They're gonna have to deal with DEP, even though we say they have public water and sewer, they still have to go through the planning module process, get DEP to approve it. So it would just be unnecessarily redundant and complicated to put all of that into this. The only intent of this is to say, this is another permitted use within the township.
Where is high density residential allowed now? Do we know?
So there is no current form of this housing in the township. So you would either have to have a mixed use building where you could have, there's no required threshold there between commercial use and a residential use. So you can concentrate it in a single building. So we've got some acreage along 209 Business that has, maybe say less than an acre, roughly an acre. You could concentrate, a 9,000 square foot building, say at the corner of like Lake Valhalla, for example, there's a commercial parcel. That could be a 9,000 square foot, 2-story building, so 18,000 square feet total. You would have like 16 units in that, so that could be, that's permitted today, and that is a mixed use building. We also have several units that are above the veterinary clinic over here at Smithfield Animal Hospital. So that is one form. It's not necessarily high density. I think it's like 6 units, and it's probably a quarter of the building's gross floor area, something like that. So the only other option that exists, there's the R2 zone, where you have we call it the moderate density district. So you can have 10 dwelling units per building, but that's the cap. The other area where you could theoretically have it is in a major mixed-use development. The constraints there are so that you would in effect have to have over 50 acres to begin with. And that also permits not necessarily apartment buildings, but that also permits townhomes and other less dense uses on a concentrated development. And then you would have to have, I think, construction started on 10 acres of commercial. That's essentially the gateway model. And I don't mean gateway, capital G gateway, but the general gateway type of ordinance. So
Data centers and population growth, they both have the same common problem. Water use and sewage.
I would not make the comparison on water use, but between or any other utilities.
Well, I'm making the comparison because it needs, we have to ensure we're gonna have population growth. We need to make sure that we have the proper, enough
Correct.
water to supply the population growth and
Correct.
the sewage that's involved.
Correct. So everything would be required to get a will serve letter. So if there's not capacity, then they're not going to be able to build it. That would be the end of it, especially because we're not going to
We don't want,
permit.
that's we said it would be a bad start, wouldn't it?
What's
Because that, it would be a bad start because we're looking to grow. And, but isn't it,
Well, that's
shouldn't we be looking at this, for forward thinking to make sure that we have enough water, that we have the resources?
I'm not sure that not passing an ordinance because we're concerned and not going to evaluate that is forward thinking, but I think that understanding where the utilities are and allowing the developer to get the will serve letter rather than us doing the planning work for them, I think that is appropriate. What you see very commonly, we have a lot of water capacity with BCRA in particular, because they've extended their pipes. They're mostly concentrated near the Gateway project and then closer to Airport Road. So I don't think there's any eligible parcels that are served by Manwalamick or PA American, for example. There are a couple that have one but not the other. And it's dependent upon either developer to bring the lines there or to have a grant fund the expansion. The sewer authority is trying for to get sewer to Buttermilk Falls Road and beyond, but that's $1 million project for them just to get to Buttermilk Falls Road. So I'm not anticipating a groundswell of this, especially when the theoretical maximum, including even some of those parcels, is 4.4% of our acreage. I think that we can evaluate this 6 ways to Sunday. I think this is a pretty well thought out ordinance, and one of our colleagues on the Board of Supervisors. I find myself kind of in the middle. I think, Robert, it's fair to say that you have maybe even a broader thought on this than I do, and Michael has a more conservative thought. And so the compromise is having a more effective plan that restricts it but permits it in a way that is controlled and consistent with the aesthetic that we want to see.
So you're talking 25 units per acre.
Sure,
Okay, that's max.
correct.
Based on,
Based on
Gross acreage.
gross acreage, but John's done a lot of research on this, and in the municipalities you represent, some of them have way less restrictions than that.
It's gonna require a 3 or 4 story building, which is what we're encouraging.
okay,
So an example, this would be the apartments on Mount Nebo Road across from Price Chopper.
That's a less dense example. I think those are mostly 2-story walk-ups.
right.
So we're talking taller than that, but more concentrated.
Hopefully, we can build something better looking than
Up to
that.
5.
Yeah, but we
up to
can't
5
dictate that.
floors, right?
Well, correct, but so that the density requirement makes it so that type is not actually possible. So if you recall some of the renderings that Dr. Khan may have presented to you,
Yes,
that's really kind of the standard going rate and going appearance for that.
And for comparison, I believe I took a look at that. Dr. Khan's sketch was proposing a density of about 15 per acre. I mean, 25 per acre is very, very dense.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go after probably, or maybe even 5. It depends on what your product is with how many bedrooms you're offering and what size.
And if you're going to do that, you have to have met the 5% gross floor area of a non-residential use. And it must be an existing principal permitted use in the underlying zone. So theoretically, 100,000 square feet, gross floor area between all your units, you're gonna have to have 5,000 square feet of some sort of other use, which could be a cafe, a restaurant, and most are much larger than that. Where we find problematic is in the incentivized option, which has only been used, I believe, once. You tend to have the problem where they can't flesh out the entire bottom floor, and you can't have more than one principal building. This doesn't have that same restriction. So you could theoretically house a mixed-use building, do this option and have multiple other buildings, or you could do it all in one.
Sort of like Brewski's.
Yes, Brewski's is an excellent example of that. Now in East Stroudsburg and some other townships, they have a requirement where it's essentially only the front half of the bottom floor is improved with the commercial use. And the back of the property is generally incidental uses or otherwise more residents. So that's kind of what we are imagining. But in the meetings that we've had, the extensive conversations with planners and just people that are generally involved in the area, there's no desire to flesh out an entire building in that way. And most people aren't going to build the commercial without the residential to sustain it, because that's kind of the moneymaker at the moment. And I think that if we have this, it's going to support those employment generating uses. Right now, we've been fortunate to get a couple in areas that are so hot that it would be ridiculous not to have it built out. That's like the frontage on Seven Bridge Road. It's obvious that Wawa and St. Luke's are doing well, and anyone else that would go along there would do the same. The car wash is ridiculously successful over there, particularly with the unseasonably warm weather. But you have that in the Dairy Queen, they do really well, even the Odd Lot there. So like that corridor, we don't imagine this occupying frontage there. There's a parcel that's 9 acres that is adjacent to the Gateway project. That's not going to be eligible because it's like 1,100 linear feet along 209. So we're imagining very specific, like I said, it's a maximum of like 53 parcels at the moment. And that includes essentially full build out of where the utilities are. we don't imagine, I think the one that you're obviously going to get is the one that has a grant to realign Franklin Hill Road. I think it's obvious that Dr. Khan's project would be one that would submit under this criteria, and it's not going to have the commercial, but if you have some of these along these corridors, you are likely to get more commercial adjacent to it. They become hubs. And when we talk about sidewalking and green space and paths, that's really only possible when you start to build out a corridor. And right now, we only have the makings of, I don't know, half a mile of real corridor.
So we'll get a bicycle path. in here.
That's part of it. So in the fee in lieu of, you can either dedicate the space on your own parcel, just like you could now, this doesn't change that. Or you could pay a fee based on the number of dwelling units to the township, which would require us to use that funding to improve parks. And even construct facilities nearby. There's a certain, I think the mileage requirement, something like that within the parameters of that ordinance.
Jim, just to get back to the comment you made about the younger generation would like this. It's not just the younger generation. We have a problem here in that empty nesters can't move out of their houses because there's no place to go. The only place in the township for seniors is really Shawnee Ridge, which is full. There's nothing else, and having apartments would probably free up a lot of our real estate for younger people that want to move into houses after they live someplace like this. So we've got that. And another thing to remember is this, that especially with our medical corridor with Independence Road, the majority of those people that work there are, let's say, under 40. And many of them are either single or couples. There's no place to live. If you go to your doctor the next time and ask his assistants where they live, it's Scranton, it's Easton, it's Allentown, it's not here. And this would be a great thing so that people could actually work where they live. That's a good thing.
I think this is a fabulous idea. However, as was previously pointed out when we were talking about the cell tower, it kind of goes against our comprehensive plan of being a rural area with,
I'll make the distinction though, so if you build out your commercial corridors, you're leaving the rest of the residential zones undisturbed. We're not talking about making those more dense. But we're kind of at a crossroads here where we've had 6 years of trying the ED zone, which has been good. It's more flexible, but no amount of other changes to that ordinance is going to make our township improve. This is the only other option left. And I believe it fulfills the comprehensive plan because it does talk about multiple forms of housing in the comprehensive plan.
well, there's no question, this is a big change for the township. This is not just a change in the data center. This is a big major change in what this township's gonna look like. If they were to have 2 or 3 of these built out, it would change the character of the township. And
I don't think that's fundamentally true, and I think a lot of the stuff that has been built has changed their character worse than this could ever possibly change it. We talk about, the nature of the commercial uses that we have right now, they're not necessarily sustaining our community.
say that again, they're not what?
They're not necessarily sustaining our community.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean, they're not really substantially adding to the tax base. And what we need is a growing tax base. With these assessments and the crazy stuff that's going on in the county, it's making it more and more difficult to provide services. The reality is, we can talk about how, this is gonna change the character of the area. Well, we already have some forms of this. I would respectfully suggest that all the subdivisions that everybody was able to get in, everybody and their brother built 100 houses. I don't see how that made the area fundamentally better. It's certainly not different than concentrating it in one area. If we're talking about that, I see it from my perspective as a statement of privilege to say how awesome it is to have this very rural feel. And we're not making a distinction on that. We're not changing that. Commercial corridors don't feel rural. I certainly don't feel like I'm in a rural area when I'm driving down Milford Road. I feel that when I'm on Franklin Hill Road. I feel that when I'm on Hollow Road. I feel that when I'm on Fawn Road. That's what I think a lot of people want. that is unattainable for a lot of people in my generation. It's unattainable for anyone that wants to downsize. So, no, hold on, I just wanna finish. Smithfield is for my generation too, and if you wanna lock us out, and I'm not saying, I'm not saying you personally. I'm saying people that don't think that this belongs anywhere. The only way to make this smaller possibly, I mean, you could have part on 10 acres, but then that's taking up more parcels, so.
Will there be a requirement so that it'll be architecturally pleasing? So it's not just, yeah, it's important because it's not just a park, you know, and it's been proven, that, buildings past a certain height, it's detrimental to a community, so.
No, I
It can't be
understand that.
more, it can't be more than the max. Is 5 feet, is 5 stories, but if we cap it somewhere around 4. I
Well,
think
that
that,
criteria is usually based on the fire department being able to service it.
Correct, and they have to be
And it's
sprinklers.
also based on code,
have to-
construction
has to
methods.
do with crime. So the higher the building goes, if it goes past 5 stories, then you're gonna have a tremendous increase in crime.
Well,
So-
I respectfully, if this doesn't
It should go,
contemplate,
it should go above.
well, it won't, that's what's in this criteria in front of you,
Yeah,
it
the
wouldn't.
max is 50 feet. for the space.
60, right?
Before we get some audience questions, let's let him finish, okay? I know I got 2 of you there, so.
I have a question, I just wanted to point out.
Well, let's
When Vicky was speaking, Jacob took a minute to speak over her while she was at the podium. And then this lady just had a question and he turned around and said, basically,
Okay,
not to talk, so I just
all
want
right,
to
thank
point
you.
that out
All right, we'll give you
for
a chance.
everybody.
We'll give you.
Sorry, I don't mean, I try
So
not to
Jacob,
lose my
what
train
else
of
did
thought.
you want to say?
That's all I have to say, I don't know what more, you know, I can really say. I can
So what are
answer-
you looking for from us at this
Well,
point?
we're looking for a recommendation. We're set to have a public hearing on April 22nd, along with the sign ordinance update that you've reviewed. The zoning map clerical amendment, which recolors the 4 parcels that
And
somehow
how was
lost
this developed? What people were involved in developing that?
John and myself. And
So no input from other,
no, we've discussed this at, sorry, the actual, yes, the actual construction of the ordinance itself, the manual writing was between John and myself.
Right.
The talk about this has been for the last 4 years at public meetings. This
Right.
specific option, basically since I think the More Front Doors summit at Kalahari.
And all 3 supervisors stand behind this, we've all had a part in
Jake,
shaping.
did you get I'm sorry, Jim. Did you get the requirement to include with the presentation from a developer? As Jim was saying, some type of aesthetic.
So April 18th
Like-
is when our next, we have a work session next week on dirty fill and grading. But the next topic after that is submission criteria, which is going to be requiring those elevations, something that we've already done in some of these other
Yeah,
larger uses. but
yeah, I
yes.
hadn't heard that. Elevations is the word I wanted to hear.
Yes, elevations will be in that and,
but just by submitting them doesn't mean they have to.
Well,
well,
You can't legislate aesthetics.
yeah, understood. I mean, I agree with you. I'm just going to.
No, but at least we can have a sense of what it's gonna look like, what the developer is
So
planning.
if you don't like it, what do? What do you say?
I don't like it.
Yeah, but they don't want to change it. Unless you have some.
I agree with you, but it's not.
We don't have an architectural criteria
With the,
in this township.
You know,
and I
it's
don't
funny
think
because half the township would say, oh my God, we should have Harb. And half the township would say, oh my God, you're imposing on my property rights. So like it's even a struggle in Strasbourg. So I agree with you. We want to see that. That's why a lot of what's built into the saldo is aesthetic. I would like to have something at some point, and this is just me speaking, not Michael or Robert too.
Yeah,
I think that we could have a design manual, which essentially lays out what our desired aesthetics are. and provide an incentive to comply with those. That I think is reasonable, and I would like to undertake that.
When you say incentive to comply, doesn't mean they have to. What incentives?
No, I would mean that what I would do is I would have a standard of development. You could pick a whole bunch of different options, and I would pick a standard that you want to have, and it would only be able to be done if you would meet design according to that manual. So I would support that.
Okay.
That would be laid out similar to how this is, because currently there's major mixed use development option, there's the incentivized development option, there would be the high density residential development option. And theoretically, I would, call it, development consistent with the Smithfield Township Design Manual or something like that. That would, you could include a number of different uses and aesthetic standards, but that's
Would
my
that be under
desire.
our stuff?
No, that's different.
I mean, if we make an amendment, wouldn't it be under seldom?
It would be in zoning because, yeah, I think it's academic, it would be in zoning because you wouldn't be able to meet the criteria outside of that, so. You would have to essentially have your manual adopted every year, something like that, and then. Review it against
Okay.
that, and that would be done,
Okay.
chapter 27 against an engineer's review,
Yeah.
that would be.
Jacob, did you say that there was some language in there, I didn't read it, that would require them to make a donation to a fund for parks and recreation?
Yes.
Or or green space acquisition?
Yes, for every dwelling unit, so that's set by fee schedule every year, so that's the fee in lieu of open space, so if they were to dedicate. The open space, that would be different, most opt to just pay the fee. So
Okay, and then that money would be used for what? To
so that would be
buy,
used for the park system to either develop open space, buy open space. Improve parks or construct new recreation facilities,
So you're saying an HOA,
no,
not at all, no.
how do you force them to pay it?
Because if they don't, then they're not going to get the approval, so. That's the nature of how
It's a
that
one-time fee.
works, and if you
not
don't
HOA.
do that, I mean, you're either not gonna get approval, or if somehow. You're asleep at the wheel and you say, oh, you can do it, and then they don't do it. You have the power to enforce that by litigation. That's not really how I would envision it, I think. Fee in lieu of open space per unit is quite common, and then, by the way, commercial users have to do this too, not just residential, so. I think we got a substantial sum from even the Dollar General, which was 2016, I think it was.
Like when you buy a cemetery plot, you have to pay certain fees so that they keep,
Mowing the grass.
they mow the grass in front of your grave.
All right, so we had a couple public comments.
Somewhat.
Over here, Mitch, you have a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sandra, or do you want me to answer more?
Oh, you're done, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can answer more, but it's.
My comment is just this, I listened to a very interesting presentation by Tom Campbell. Does anybody know him? He is the Director of Housing Initiatives and Development for United Way. His education and his professional experience is very detailed and is focused on problems just like we have. He works with Monroe County. And his presentation basically says Monroe County has a housing problem. And so that means Smithfield Township has a housing problem. And so we definitely need a solution. Okay? With all due respect to Jacob, our supervisors, and to John, and recognizing what you said, David, that this is a very big change for Smithfield Township. I think that's worthy of some professional analysis and study and development. And to get some real strong recommendations from people who are experts in this.
I disagree with you completely, Mitch.
Well, I
You've
understand.
been pushing for,
Can I finish?
you've been
please?
pushing for a
Can I
plan.
finish?
I don't want to talk.
Um,
Crosstalk.
So as a resident, I think when we developed the whole concept of the ED zones. We had that as a result of a study. And analysis, isn't that right?
Correct.
Okay, so
Committed?
if we're gonna have a solution for the housing problem. Let's study it, let's spend some money and let's get the right solution. I'm just not comfortable that this ordinance is the right solution. That's my input.
I disagree completely.
I got one sec. We're looking at like, what? 200 units? Approximately?
Depends on the size of the property.
Yeah,
Right, so you double
If you-
that in
if you-
vehicles? I think we need traffic study. You ever try to come from 80 to the circle
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
And then try to go from the circle to 80 at 7 to 9 in the morning? I really think there should be some studies done.
Every
Especially if James
development
came up
has
with
to
water,
provide a
sewage, everything.
traffic study.
I'm across town.
I mean, I think there should be some serious studies done.
But that-
Plus,
that's
they're
still-
also asking you to raise the limit on the housing, the height. Okay, our height is at what, 50, now we wanna go to 60?
No, it's 50, right?
35.
yeah, no, the industrial zone is actually where, things are capped at 35 feet, currently. I know there's a distinction, you can go up a certain amount if you by variance. But
Right.
the Board of Supervisors, has discretion, it's currently 45 feet. In the ED zone, it can go up to 60, so it's not necessarily, a change, it's just. Kind of a built-in option on this one.
Alright, so, okay, well, I think we ought to get in on the fire, we have three fire departments, they're all volunteer fire departments. How many guys are we gonna get there if there's a
Right.
fire in one of them high rises? How many people are gonna get there? I mean, we need to know, or do we need to come up with a full-time fire department?
So,
We can't rely on East Stroudsburg and Stroudsburg all the time. We need to really think this out. I think the apartments are a good idea, but I think we don't need to jump in on this tonight for them to approve it, for you to approve the next meeting. I think we really need to think this out with some serious studies.
So, we just as a brief, with all due respect, so every land development plan has to be reviewed by. The fire and EMS services that would provide the services. And they are comfortable with them as long as they are sprinkled, which they're required to by building code. And they have to have the necessary turning radius and all of that to have an effective response. Mutual aid through Stroudsburg and Stroud and, East Stroudsburg is necessary, on occasion. There's a difference between daytime response versus nighttime response. But these have not had abnormal responses or issues. We've had other less dense, sometimes more sprawling, uses have fires. And, those I do not believe were sprinklered, and that produced a lot of people to respond to those. This is entirely different, and just with respect to jumping into it, this is a discussion the township has been having for 11 years. This is a different option. And it's a distinct, particularly constrained one at that. And I think that that's all I can really, say at this point. I think I made it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you with the sprinkler, it makes the chances of being catastrophic much less. Yeah,
It is till it isn't.
sorry,
It is till it isn't.
agree, but if you look at
But
history,
we have failure because we didn't do the proper water study, and then
that would
the
all,
sprinklers don't work, because
that would all be done.
Well, that's required with
Over.
current land development in.
I'm just saying, we really need to put some more thought into this.
Well, go ahead,
Okay,
state your name, please.
Charlene Spezza. I live in, Shawnee Valley Estates, where the new, was it, the new communities being put in. I did, receive a letter, or I shouldn't say a letter, it's a, email, from a supervisor, letting us know, the updates on the, Plan, 1B. And it states in here, which is like very concerning, is American Water has yet to guarantee water or sewage for these services. One of the reasons is the shortage of water from existing wells that supply our water. This question has not been resolved. Okay, so with that being said, now Jacob keeps saying these, that's, already taken care of when they do it, or, that's, in the plan. Well, this is from a township supervisor dated February 11. So as a resident, if there's a shortage in the well and they are gonna put this new development with all these homes, where are we getting the water?
There's
And the same thing with the same thing for these houses, like, you know, and you're saying, okay, they have a sprinkler system, but if we have a shortage in water and we don't have, you know, the sewer or the capacity, and you have a township supervisor letting the residents of Shawnee Valley know that this is happening and they still haven't resolved it,
But
you
they
don't think
can't
that's
build-
concerning?
I can't speak for when my colleagues speak as individuals, so I haven't seen what you're referring to. But what we're talking about, where it's public utilities that are required, the will serve letter, yes, it's required with private as well, but none of what we're talking about would be on that particular system, which has its own challenges from what I understand. That's why the EAC is requesting a public hearing on their permit renewal via DEP. In terms of Broadhead Creek Regional Authority and the Smithfield Sewer Authority, they both have ample capacity, and they work with other regional authorities to pump a certain part of that capacity over to the East Stroudsburg plant. So I don't have a particular concern with that, and those authorities are required to guarantee that, and the developers in a lot of cases have to pay to reserve it. So there's a distinct advantage in actually doing that planning. There's not a lot of sense in doing a general capacity study, that's left to those authorities. But the only other thing that I would add, that the sprinklers in multifamily are different. I don't know about transient uses in terms of vacation homes or permanent single family dwellings. If what you're referring to is the PRD, that's completely distinct, and
But that's Manawamic, isn't it?
that is Manawamic and
Now it's American Water.
I don't know the details on that. I can't speak to that correspondence because I didn't write it.
I wrote
Seen
it,
it.
okay? I'm the guy who wrote it. It's a report to all the residents. But it has nothing to do with the water that's would be available for anything in the ED zone. The water that's available, which was for Manawamic and now is American Water, the 6 wells that we dug, I don't know how long ago, that supply all the water for that water system. It doesn't come from any of the two water companies that we use for commercial water in the township. And also, the water we're talking about is strictly what's available in the ED zone. The PRD was completely different. And it, as I said, it depends on 6 wells that are there. And that's the problem, because when you're putting in 300 new residences, the question is, can those wells supply it? That hasn't been answered yet.
So.
So how is it-
If I'm gonna cite it.
Well, how does that happen though? How do we
How is it?
let it
planned
go,
out?
like planned out? You're saying there's a
Yeah,
plan
and
and
they're
action, but
planning.
how do you do that? You allow the whole, you know, and this
Is
is
that
not
plan
against you,
approved?
Robert,
No one
I
allowed-
understand that, but I'm
Certainly,
saying.
no one allowed it. What happened was, under Manawamic, the developer supposedly had the right to put this in and they could supply it. American Water now is the supplier, has taken over Manawamic, and you can look at it, and they're still studying it because it's the question of whether those 6 wells can support it. It may be they'll have to dig more wells. I don't know, but anything that they do has to be approved by the state regulators that they control all of the water in that area.
Is that gonna be the same with the new high density housing?
No,
Did
No,
somebody
high-density
have
housing-
to prove that
No.
it has water?
there's a lot of unknowns that we're talking about here, so let's
Okay.
cut this short. The bottom line is, any development has to get approval from the respective utility, gas, water, electric, sewer, all of them. They are the ones that say, yes, we can support this development. I don't know what happened over there. I don't know what's going on over there.
So
But
that's the thing,
Nobody
you do
does.
the residents,
Yeah.
nobody does, and that's
Nobody
that's
does.
concerning, I mean, that's.
I understand, so you need to take it up with Ken America or, Ken America.
American Water.
American
Water,
Water.
and we
You can take it
are,
up with
we
them.
took it up with the DEP.
Yeah, there's nothing we can.
The email came from the Board of Supervisors.
Yes.
He was alerting.
I sent it.
He was
So then
alerting.
why can't they take it up with the supervisors? You're telling them to take it up with that makes no sense.
He was being nice and giving you a heads up.
Yeah. Board
It's
is
not our,
regulate-
it's not our
regulate.
responsibility, it's the
We don't pay
utilities. Okay, so any more questions on this? High
Well, maybe they
density?
should look into it, huh? And let the public know. How about that? How about they do their job and let the public know? Instead of shutting everybody down.
We just did.
Yeah, ha, 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 you didn't let nobody know nothing, jackass.
All right.
Cut that guy
Oh,
off.
oh, yeah.
What is it, strong or something? What's his name?
No. You got it.
This high density housing that we're talking about, are we talking about low income?
Not necessarily.
Okay, well, that was one question I just wanted to ask was low income. Jacob, you had mentioned something about people in your age group. Where did you get this, where did you get this?
When I get this, I mean,
Yeah.
see how many of my high school classes left in our area. I mean, I don't, honestly, that's not a Stein mark, I don't have a general comment, I know that there's a lot of.
No, the reason I'm asking, and I think, I understand what you're saying, I mean, that there's a housing shortage. But can I say something just as somebody who's older, who's retired, okay? When we were younger, okay, we will struggle, we didn't have anywhere to go, so. My husband and I, we travel an hour and a half every day to work to make money to get a place to stay in, okay? I find today that a lot of the young people that are looking for help or an easy way, like they're driving BMWs, Audis, Lexuses, I mean, and all this other stuff.
Appreciate that, but that's no different than my general remark about, you know, who's left from my class here, like, neither one of these are statistically. You know, represented in front of us right now, but a lot of the things that you're talking about being, you know, harder for you, your generation, but was in a lot of ways.
Point of order. Yeah, we're gonna end this now. We're gonna move on. I mean, if we can talk about this, we have two other major ordinances to go
You should
through.
know, Mr. Chair, and it's not meant to stifle comment,
Right,
public comment is comment. It's not a question and answer period.
right.
That's not permitted unless that's how the meeting is set up. That's not how these meetings are set up. A person comments, no more than 3 minutes.
Understood. We've definitely gone over that. So,
Okay,
we're done. Sorry, we'll catch you later. All right, so we're looking for a motion from the board of commissioners.
I move that we postpone discussion of this ordinance number 262, the real 262. High density residential development option to our next meeting. Because we didn't really arrive at any kind of conclusion. I don't feel as if I can give any kind of coherent recommendation to the Board of Supervisors on this. If others of you do, then fine, I'll abstain, but.
So you're making a motion though.
Well, my motion would be that we postpone it till the next meeting.
Any second?
Effectively a motion to table.
Yes.
Table.
Any seconds on that? I'll second it.
I'll second.
So we have a first and a second. Any discussion? We'll put it to a vote.
I guess my only discussion is if we table it until next month. Are we going to actually go back and read the ordinance again and look at it and think about it? Or are we just gonna forget it until next month?
It's
and
a
then
personal
kind of-
choice.
Well, I know.
I
but-
personally am gonna read it.
Well, and I will too. Okay, everybody's gonna do something, but I just kind of hate the fact that nobody.
Well, I
Right.
hope that's what we do, and I hope we also consider some of the good comments that Jacob made too.
Yeah.
It's just a lot to swallow in this meeting.
I can present some visuals. Alex was generous enough to do these, get the mapping of the county. I have some of that. So if you want to.
Is there a pressing need to get moved along quicker?
You have a motion second on the floor. You gotta move that.
I'd like to inform the committee, we haven't mentioned this at all, but if you postpone this. What you will do is you will reach the deadline where we will lose $1 million multimodal grant to realign Franklin Hill Road, which is tied to one of these developments. We haven't said that because it's different, but that's what's gonna happen. And that's what you're doing. And I don't agree with it. I think we need to pass this and we need to go on. If you wanna make recommendations after it, we can always amend it.
Wow, now
At
I
this
feel
point,
like I'm
I
being,
think it
you know,
should be
held to the
passed.
fire there.
And if we don't, we're losing $1 million in a grant because that grant expires in June. And unless we show some progress, that grant will go away.
I can just note a distinction, because I did mention that different works during my presentation. What I will say is you are able to consider it, your next meeting. We have a hearing on April 22nd. So you have enough room, that's why the deadline is structured the way it is, so you don't have to make a recommendation. Certainly, I think some people would appreciate it, but you can consider it at I don't know when your next meeting is off.
The ninth.
You can consider it at that point, I can have some visuals, but I won't make another extended presentation, but I will have some visuals.
A
That
follow-up presentation on April 9th.
would be fun.
And would that be all right, Robert? Would you still have your deadline?
Yeah, the deadline is June, unless something is started on this by June, which means that the development.
Why is this tied to this ordinance?
It's tied to it because some of the work that has to be done for this realignment is with a developer who's developing a parcel there. If this doesn't go through and that isn't developed, that means that the grant is lost because we haven't started. They're both
So
together.
you're talking about where that pizza place is, or used to
We're
be,
talking about realigning Franklin Hill Road so that both sides come together at the same point.
where the traffic light is.
Right, that's $1 million.
No, wait, but no, are you talking you're talking Franklin Hill, not Gap View?
Right,
Okay.
that's $1 million multimodal grant we've already got, but we got it 2 years ago, it's gonna expire in June. Unless something is started, we can show.
But the
state
developer was
is
gonna,
making
but when
progress.
Con was gonna develop that property,
Huh?
when Con was developing that property,
That's right.
he was going to do that realignment.
Correct, so that's what the funding is for. I don't remember the exact mechanism. I know it was a multimodal grant. Happy to present information on that, but I can get that succinctly. What I will say is, yes, that deadline's in mind. But that I consider it, I know some might consider them to be the same. It is technically distinct. That developer is separate from this ordinance. They will certainly take advantage of it. I have no reason to think that they wouldn't.
Well, wait a minute,
But
the developer applied for the ordinance with us, we're both in that together.
no, hold on, the grant, he did not apply for the ordinance. This was raised on our
I'm
own.
fine with the grant.
That's what I can,
We have a motion.
yeah, I can explain succinctly with less.
We can address the motion.
Better.
I'm confused. Why are we
You're done.
pushing? Why are we pushing to pass something when there's $1 million?
Stop, Todd.
Look,
Stop.
it's a backdoor deal. It's a backdoor deal.
What do you wanna do? $1 million to the township?
Please stop.
We're trying to understand this. So there is a motion and there's a second. We don't like the way this is being thrown. I don't like the way this is being thrown at us. I think we need more time to look at it. I understand your sense of urgency, but I would like to take it to the next meeting so that we can have a chance to review it. So we have a motion on the
table.
table. First and second, we're gonna vote on it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Unanimous. We will look at it at the next meeting.
Table. Sign order.
Okay, next one is a sign ordinance.
Thanks, Commissioner Strong. Happy to give you all a very brief overview. I'm sure everyone's looking to try to get this meeting wrapped up. But we do have a hearing coming up for the sign ordinance. Commissioner Strunk was on the committee that helped draft this with Supervisor Albert. We have finally, I was gonna say, we finally got a final draft based on your solicitor, Ron Tarasek's review and his edits, as well as the zoning officer.
Yeah.
And at this point, you may recall back in December, you saw this already. We said there'd be more to come. Here it is. It was a little bit delayed because we needed to make sure that legal went over it very carefully because of all the implications. But what you're looking at here is basically an update to your zoning ordinance. And basically the whole ordinance updates design to regulate time, place, and manner of signs. We're not regulating contents. That's really a key distinguishing point. So this ordinance updates your existing criteria to have additional criteria or updated criteria and prohibited signs, updates on registrations of signs, updates on non-conforming signs, updates on criteria for the removal of unsafe, unlawful, and abandoned signs. It adds a new classification of signs called limited duration signs, like the ones that say like coming soon or construction underway, things like that. This is something I know we chatted about before, and the commissioners actually added some criteria for not renewing those necessarily. So I remember that was a really good recommendation that is in here. The criteria for the limited duration, as you may remember, is you have a 1-year permit, let's say under construction, it's there for a year, and then it comes back and it doesn't automatically get renewed. There may be criteria involved with the supervisor can weigh in on that. And then the big one is like criteria on temporary signs like the banner flags and the flag signs. You know, there's new criteria on that. We define banner flags. It wasn't previously defined. We, you know, I'll continue with the updates. Criteria for signs permitted in the R1, R2, RC zoning districts. There's now a substitution clause, which protects us legally, so anyone can swap the message on the sign from commercial to non-commercial, personal expression, however it may be. And then there's just updated sections of your zoning ordinance to reflect changes in the names of your zones. Like there was reference to commercial, but now it's ED. Things of that nature. And so, you know, you can flip through it, but you know, now you see these nice pretty pictures that way from an end user standpoint, you know, oh, so that's what a limited duration sign is. So, that's what an inflatable sign is. Oh, that's a banner flag. That way it makes it more user friendly for the end user as well as, you know, for the township. So there's a hearing set for the 22nd of April. And at that point, happy to take any questions and allow for deliberation, and it's up to you how you want to proceed.
Motion.
Yeah. Make a motion, consensus does.
You make a recommended approval.
Recommended approval. I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Abstained, so moved.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is sign ordinance, or not sign ordinance, zoning map clerical addendum. Ordinance 264.
Yes, so this one stems from 4 parcels that are located in front of Milford Commons. The parcels in particular are 1610-117, 1610-24, 1610-124, 1610-125, and 1610-127. Our zoning map was correct as of May 2021, when these parcels were read and labeled in the Economic Development District. But something happened with the passage of ordinance number 244, which was an unrelated zoning update, when these parcels just lost their color. They never lost their designation, and that ordinance did not change the zoning regulations on those parcels. It just happened. We reached out to the Monroe County Planning Commission, who creates these maps for us, and they confirmed that it was an administrative error in their system. That's why these parcels just randomly lost their color. Attorney Karasak, we spoke with him, and he requested that this, because it is technically a map change in a way, just go through all of the proper channels for if it were a real zoning update, which is why it's coming before you and why it will be advertised.
Okay.
The township is sending letters out to these parcel owners to let them know what has happened and why this is occurring as well.
Very good. I'll make a motion. We recommend approval of this ordinance. Second, or
Let me make a comment, if you have a second.
please.
Yeah, okay. And looking at the ordinance, the leader paragraph, I'm not sure if there's a repeat of language on that last line.
I have one comment as well. Commissioner Turn also noticed that the comment stated that the error occurred on June 8th, 2026. Is actually June 8th, 2022. Our apologies for that, and that will be corrected as well.
Well, that was gonna be my second comment.
Yeah.
So again, as to the leader paragraph, I'm not certain if there's a repeat of the words economic development zoning district.
Yes, there is. There's a repeat of those words.
And the only other thing is that because it's a map change, you have to notify people surrounding area within 30 days of the hearing, and you also need to post the property within 1 week before the hearing.
Yes.
So remember
I've discussed this with
those other
There,
requirements.
we are prepared to comply with the requirements associated.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All those in favor with the changes?
Both,
right?
yeah, with changes, right?
Yeah, with changes. So the motion is to recommend approval of ordinance 264 with the changes of the date and the
Language.
language. Right? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain, okay, so moved. That concludes our new business. Now we're open for public comment. Anybody have any public comment? Yeah. Everybody wants to drink of water, their voices too.
Guess not.
I just have a comment. I want to thank, you all up there. I just want to, say as a resident, I know, as you sit up there, you may not agree with what some of the residents have to say and vice versa. But, you need respect, but also so we need respect. And the reason I'm bringing this up is when Ms. Osborne got up there and you told her to move on, you might not have liked what she had to say, but she has the right to say that. And for you to be rude like that, I mean, that looks bad on you. And you're sitting out there as a resident, as we, elected you or however, it's just it's unacceptable. Yeah, it's just unnecessary. And that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a
Respect
reply.
goes both ways.
I'm gonna reply to that.
Perfect.
She made accusations that are totally unfounded, right? It's ridiculous. That's why I commented to it, because that kind of stuff starts to
Okay, well, you
spread.
can also, sir, you can also do it in a respectful way.
Okay, I'm sorry I wasn't respectful.
That's all. That's all I'm asking.
I
Like,
don't,
it
I
goes
don't
both ways.
appreciate it when people make comments like that, that are totally unfounded, only to kind of get things talked about.
I'd also like to, just piggyback on that and say when Tom was trying to speak, he wasn't being disrespectful, he had genuine concerns. And you guys told him to move on as well. When Robert over talked everyone at the same time and nobody said anything to him.
This-
So I just feel like as a community, we can all try to do a little bit better
Okay, as
as a community.
our solicitor said, this meeting was out of control. The way the agenda is written, the way our meeting runs, is there's no public comment at all until the very end, and here we are. So we were being very lenient in this, and at some point I had to shut it down, because we'd be here all night. So we're trying to do the best we can, and to your comment, we are volunteers. We are just like you, just happen to be sitting on this side of the table, because we care about this township.
Well, absolutely. That's why my first
Yeah.
thing was I thank you guys.
So
for
this is
being
why
up
we don't
there.
appreciate
I just think-
accusations that are totally unfounded.
Well, I don't,
They're not accusations.
I mean, and that's her
Okay, come
opinion.
with proof.
Well, there is, you guys removed it from the EV zoning.
So what? Proof. It's ridiculous.
Alright.
Yes, Tom.
I would like to personally apologize because I was rude to you.
Thank you.
What, do you guys do workshops? Where you spend an hour or two here and there to get together and sit
There
down
are
and
at
talk?
times when it's
It
necessary.
would suggest, especially this ordinance 262 and the cell tower, I think you guys should really get a workshop in for each one and read all the information. Cause, I wanna go back to Doug, when he said, did we have FFA or FAA for height restriction? They can only fly so low. Helicopters, everything. They have to have permission to come below the hard deck. Okay, hard deck's like 25,000. Okay, helicopters are different. They have to have permission to fly. Cell tower is not that high, and we're talking about putting up 5-story buildings that are about 65% the height of the cell tower. So I mean, it's really, they're very close. It's similarity. Just the one, somebody doesn't like it on Gap View Drive. It's going somewhere, regardless of whether it's on Gap View Drive or Franklin Hill or on my field. It's going somewhere. You just can't stop it, so why not just put it where all the work's already been done?
Any more public comment? Mitch?
Yeah, thank you for delayed this decision. Carol Probst has just announced that there will be a roundtable on housing community development at East Stroudsburg High School, 4 p.m. on the 26th of March. I'm sure there will be quite a few experts on housing and how to solve the housing problem in Monroe County. So I would suggest that you have good attendance there and maybe talk to some of those people.
On the
and
what?
Get some expert.
What day?
26.
What time, Mitch?
Or
Pardon me?
4 p.m.?
4 p.m.
East Stroudsburg?
You said east.
South.
Pardon me?
Yeah,
East
sounds
Stroudsburg.
South.
yeah. What room is it gonna be in, do we know?
Pardon me?
What room is it gonna be in?
I don't know that.
Trying to follow the crowd.
Line people.
All the people, that's what I did up at, when I went to Maureen's town hall last week.
Any other public comments?
Not quite a public comment, it's in the high school South library. I'll send everybody the information.
Would you please? Thanks.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
One last comment, if I may. Sorry. Excuse me. I really appreciate the inter-board back and forth. It reassures me that that the zoning commission and the planning and the supervisors are talking together. And I also appreciate Ms. Turner's comment that all the participants behind the desk should be prepared when they come into the meetings with their agenda. They should have a chance. I know there's not a lot of time in the world, but if you come in prepared, it makes things go much more quickly. Thank you very much.
You want? Motion to adjourn?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
One moment, sir. Hold on, one second.